Okay, so what we'll begin with is the general category of question is how did we get here and why are we here? And so what I'd like to do is the first question I would like to pose is to our EPA representative, Krishna. Wood burning has occurred in the borough for over a century. Why did it only become a health issue in the past decade? This is where it gets on.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we're going to pass this around a little bit. So EPA was formed by the Act of Congress in 1970, and it had charge to implement the laws that were either created or in place at that time, the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Superfund, CERCLA, all those acts. So for Clean Air Act, one of the mandates from the Clean Air Act to the EPA was that based on the health science that we had at that time, and then later on a schedule that was fixed, that we look at 6 pollutants and look at what health effects there were, and make a study of, am I close enough? Okay, sorry. How the health effects were affecting individuals, look at the science, look at epidemiology studies, what were the effects of it, what levels were appropriate and protective of health for sensitive populations and general populations around the country. And then further, the schedule said that EPA will do this by an act of Congress every 5 years for those 6 pollutants. And 6 pollutants, you have dealt with one of them before, is carbon monoxide. And you've had a history of looking at the standards, working together as a community, and eventually succeeding in reducing carbon monoxide in Fairbanks and North Pole. And so PM, particulate matter, is one of those standards as pollutants that we had to look at. Originally, it was TSP. It was a total suspended particulate. It started out as a very large particle. Then it became a smaller and smaller fraction over time as research went on, because we found that the finer particles are the ones that actually get into your lungs and can chemically transform and actually affect not only sensitive populations, but also healthy people. So as research progressed towards the 90s, and the first PM 2.5 standard was set in 1997, 65 micrograms a cubic meter, and that was the level that was set at that point. And then 5 years. So even though Congress mandated that we set the standard for all these pollutants every 5 years, it hasn't happened every 5 years due to resource issues, various things, priorities that pulled us away from that schedule. So it happened roughly 5 years, maybe 7 years, maybe 8 years. So the next time we set a standard was in 2006. And that's when the research showed that PM 2.5 particles, the really fine particles, were actually getting into people's airways and systems and affecting healthy people also. And especially with sensitive populations, what it does, if you have asthma or a respiratory issue, it really aggravates it and it creates health issues for you. There's even links to studies to mortality and that how much it reduces people's lifespans and things like that. For healthy people, how you feel it is a reduction in your performance. It affects how these particles go into your, they call it alveoli, inside your lungs. And that's where the exchange happens between pure oxygen and your blood gets oxygenated in your lungs. And when you have particles impeding that process, your blood doesn't get oxygenated. So oftentimes with air quality, what you find is that you have a headache or you feel dry, and you think, I just need water, I need to take a pill, but it's a relation to how bad your air is. And then if you're a healthy individual, you're going outside to exert yourself, you're drawing in more oxygen, and it starts affecting you more, and your brain gets less oxygen or less high quality oxygenated blood, you actually start feeling dizzy or more advanced health effects. That's for the healthy individual. And for people who have other effects like asthma or respiratory issues, the effects are even more severe. So in 2006, the charge is for EPA to look at the latest health science, see if there are more studies, more progress being made, and understanding what the health effects are, and to also determine if the level that was set before is protective of the general population. And in 2006, it was found that the 65 level was not protective. We need to lower it to 35. So every 5 years, we have a mandate, unless Congress changes it, we have a mandate to look at all these 6 pollutants and set new standards. There have been times where we have left the standard alone because we felt that the studies said, it's protective. The level set previously was protective enough. So in 2000, when the standards change, the other parts of the Clean Air Act say that you then look at places around the country and see which places meet the standard or don't meet the standard and designate them as attainment or non-attainment. So that's what happened in 2000. After 2006, there's a certain time frame by which we do it, and I think it took 3 years for us to designate the Fairbanks area, along with several areas. There was about 7 areas in the immediate Northwest states, and then across the country there were over 30 or a large number of areas that were designated as not attaining the standard at that point. So that's what started this. So even if you've had practices before, our understanding of health science and our understanding of what affects people and the quality of life, if you have moved here for the quality of life of Alaska, you want to enjoy the area, it really is affecting the quality of life that you have, affecting mortality, affecting how much you go see a doctor when you have bad air events. So that's kind of the progression of how we ended up here.
Good point to